have John Reddick. We have Miriam Shakely, both on guitar. Jamie Russo is on keyboards. And also the famous brother and sister team of Ashley and Matt Nocera. Take it away, gang. Lead us on.
In the little white papers we have My Country 'Tis of Thee. That's what we'll start with. Please join with us.
And where my
part of our Catholic Alive program each time. This is our third one already this year, is the presentation of our witness speaker. And with us here tonight is a member of St. Paul Parish, Ronnie Sankey. Ronnie?
Good evening, everyone. The reason I'm here, I have to thank Father Kevin. Whenever my father-in-law passed away, he was meeting us at the house. We were doing some talked about how my father, Bob Sankey, had been a convert, and he found out that I'd been a convert many, many years ago. He said, "Oh, have I got a job for you?" So here I am, and I was going to just share a little bit about my journey. It's not anything super fantastic, it's just what I went through as I was deciding to join the Catholic faith. Officially, my journey began about 26 years ago when I began in the RCIA program. My husband and I had been married for approximately 4 years, and we were planning on having children, and we wanted to be doing the same thing for our kids as they were growing up. Up to that point in time, we were going to 2 services every Sunday and on holidays. One to my church was Presbyterian, and also to St. Paul's Mass. And we figured that was a little bit difficult with the kids, so we wanted to make sure that we were united in what we were doing. My actual intro to the Catholic faith probably took place 40 years ago. My best friend was a Catholic. Her grandmother was my neighbor. I spent lots of time there. I was also at St. Conrad's quite frequently because that's where she went to church. So I was there for CCD. I got to be a visitor there, and that's where I learned about many of the things that I'd heard about through the Catholic faith. And it was interesting because at one point their CCD teacher said, "Oh, well, we have somebody here by the name of one of the saints," and they were learning about the Stations of the Cross. And it just so happened to be Saint Veronica, which I thought was kind of cool because that was my name. So that was, part of the introduction I had was going with my best friend to church and learning a little bit about what was going on with her faith. I was also a very nerdy kid. So I always liked to learn things and find out what was going on. So I tried to do as much as I could to find out about the faith that she had and she shared with me. And I was bombarded with a lot of misconceptions because where I grew up, we weren't Catholic, and a lot of the things that non-Catholics believe aren't necessarily the truth about all the different things that we do here in the Catholic faith. So it took me a while to try to clear out some of that information. I grew up, as I said, as a Presbyterian, and Father Kevin, I'll let you know, we were front row sitters then, too. For those of you that don't know, my family and I, we sit in the very front row at St. Paul's, but whenever I was growing up, my mother always had us in the front row as well, so that's something I just had from way back when. I was actively involved in the youth group, Vacation Bible School, Sunday School. I was an acolyte, which I guess would be what you would call an altar server for the Presbyterian Church, with the candles up in the front. When I talked to my pastor about joining the Catholic Church, she was very supportive. Yes, I said she. She was very supportive and told me to stay active in whatever direction that my faith took me. She would be very supportive of whatever I decided to do. As we were preparing to marry, my parents had to sign a permission form, so to speak, for me to get married in the Catholic Church because I was not 21 years of age at that time. My dad flat out told me, "No, I am not signing anything for you." So I was a little bit nervous, but once he got a chance to meet Father O'Malley, he had a change of heart, and my parents, went ahead and said, yes, it's okay to do such a thing. Our wedding was actually a combination service, so we could accommodate both of our families and not have anybody feel left out during that particular time. But 4 years after we were married, when I decided to actually participate in RCIA, Father Gary was our pastor at St. Paul's at that time, and he was very helpful in helping me get answers to a lot of the misconceptions that I had been carrying with me. Asking things like, well, why do you pray to saints? Why do you go to confession? What are all these things that I had learned that, I could just do on my own? What was so different about these things? And he was very, very supportive in helping me to find those answers. My father-in-law was also a blessing. He also had been a convert to the Catholic faith, and from what I was told, he would go to Mass every day after he had been converted into the Catholic faith. So he was always there for me. He would talk to me and give me support in that regard as well. My parents, even though they were a little bit leery about me dating a Catholic boy to start with, were actually present at the Easter Vigil when I made my confirmation. My mother was very proud when Father Gary went up to them afterwards and said, "You did an amazing job raising a child that has such a strong Catholic, or not Catholic, but Christian foundation." They have been very supportive since then. My kids, they've been to all their baptisms, the confirmations that they've gone through. They've gone to my father-in-law's funeral. They've attended anything we've asked them to. They've just been part of our faith in growing up. I've also tried to stay active in the church, which is what my pastor wanted me to do, by teaching CCD and Vacation Bible School. I was actually involved with that for about 12 years until my kids got older. They started getting involved in things, and then our Mass times kind of jumped all over the place. We weren't going to one specific Mass. We went when we could get there. We still sit in the front row and protect Father Kevin. I just wanted to say that I'm thankful for everything that God has given to me. He's given me many blessings and the people that I've met along the way. And I pray that as my journey continues, my faith is going to continue to grow, and that I will be even more active as we continue our lives at St. Paul's Church. Thank you.
Very nice, Ronnie. Nice story. Nice story of accommodation for a happy marriage, too. We said at the beginning this is a special evening, and we'd like to take a moment here to acknowledge, I know a lot of veterans and military personnel who are in attendance this evening. I think it would be appropriate if we could ask them to please just stand for a minute so we could acknowledge you if you're active military or a veteran. Thank you for your service. I speak for all. And it's most appropriate that we're able to gather for such an evening so close to Veterans Day, coming up just a little over a week or so. To introduce our featured speaker this evening, I'd like to bring up Father Kevin Pacey.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave. What a great evening in store for us. I've been looking forward to this, as so many of you know, for a long time. And it's finally here. I first met Father Christopher Fronk in the summer of 2007. And we met through Father Charlie Bober. And Father Charlie Bober was our very first speaker here last year. Father Bober had known Father Fronk for a number of years, and that summer was my first summer as a seminarian, and I was spending it at the parish at St. Kilian Parish. So I finished an academic year, and I was spending the summer at St. Kilian. And Father Bober said to me one day, hey Kevin, a friend of mine is coming, and is going to spend a week with us here. And this is when St. Kilian's rectory and the church were in Mars, if you had ever been, a little country church right in the small town of Mars. And he said his name is Christopher Fronk. He's a Jesuit priest, and I think you two will get along. And he said, I think you two will get along. So he had an idea just based on knowing each of us. What he didn't realize was that the two of us would get along sometimes at Father Bober's expense. Oh my goodness, we still do. So you have this very distinguished, very popular, very respected priest in Father Charlie Bober. And when I finally was able to, the Father Bober, that very distinct, very respected, very intelligent, very capable. And when I got a hold of Father Fronk this past summer, and we were able to arrange this date, thanks be to God, and this evening, then I said to him, so Chris, what do you think we should title your talk? What should we title this evening? And I'm thinking along the lines of my time in Afghanistan, war and Christianity and whatnot. And Chris paused and he said to me, why don't we title it this? Better Than Bober. How a real priest spends his days. Better than Bober. Because Father Bober, he doesn't want to be surpassed. I mean, his was the best. His was the best. Better than Bober. Better than Bober. Father Fronk is from Monaca, Pennsylvania. And as a pleasant surprise, with us here this evening are his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Fronk. He attended Quigley High School, Quigley Catholic High School, and then went on to St. Joe's University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And from there is where he entered the Jesuit religious order. The most famous Jesuit in the world right now is, yes, Father Christopher Fronk. Pope Francis, of course. So it's pretty big for Jesuits that the leader of the Catholic faith in the Christian world happens to be a Jesuit priest as well. He has earned numerous degrees from St. Louis University, the University of London, Duquesne University, Marine Corps University. He was ordained a priest in 1997. And since then, he has served in numerous capacities around the world in campus ministry, in parish life, and as an active or reserve member of our military, U.S. Navy, since 1997. When we began having these sessions, these Catholic Alive programs, it hit me very early on that having him with us would be a treat. When he was in Afghanistan a few years ago, he would send us and send a number of his friends letters via email describing his experience. One was on Thanksgiving, right around Thanksgiving. The other was around Memorial Day. And these letters were so poignantly written, so wonderfully explaining his experience, his struggles, his challenges, his joys. They hit right to the heart. And I thought, my goodness, if he would be able to join us this up here in Butler and at least give us a taste of what some of these letters went through, it would be truly a blessing. So by the grace of God, he's joining us here in between assignments. He spent the last few years in Cape May working with the Coast Guard, and in a week and a half, he will go back down to Norfolk, Virginia to get back on a ship and be with our Navy and Marine personnel. So I am so pleased and proud to introduce and welcome one of my friends, one of my heroes, Father Christopher Fronk, Commander, United States Navy.
Good evening, everyone. I have to be honest, kind of a disclaimer to begin with. I didn't want to do this talk. Only because I don't like talking about myself. I don't think it's that interesting of a story, but Kevin's pretty persuasive. And the reason why I decided to do this was for two reasons. That we can have an awareness of the people who are serving right now, and that we remember those who have served already. So can I have those who have served already please stand up again? Thank you for your service. It's the legacy that you guys built or started that we continue today. So thank you. Okay, before I get into the Afghanistan part, I thought it would be good to have an introduction. Kevin gave you a little bit already. But as a Jesuit priest, or studying to be a Jesuit priest, it takes us about 10 or 12 years. And we say we're slow learners, that's why. But I got sent to the University of London in England, and as Kevin was saying when he did after his first summer of studies, I wanted to do something different. And so the Navy has what's called the chaplain candidate program. It's why you're in theology studies and seminary. You can go into the Navy and spend your summers working with them. So I wrote to my provincial and I asked permission to do it, and he wrote back and said, no, absolutely not. So I wrote again and said, I really feel God's calling me to do this. Can you reconsider? And he wrote back, I have reconsidered, and the answer is still no. Don't ask again. So I figured I had nothing to lose at that point. So I waited a couple weeks and I wrote another letter requesting the permission. And he wrote back and he said, well, clearly this is the work of the Holy Spirit, so go ahead and do it. So either I wore him down or the Holy Spirit really was at work, but anyhow, here I am tonight. So, to start off with, as I mentioned, I was in England, so I was sent to Naples, Italy for my initial training. And I had 2 weeks of training on how to wear the uniform, and then they sent me to a ship in the Adriatic Sea, the USS San Jacinto. And I spent my summer assignment working as a chaplain candidate on that ship. I had a blast. So after my summer was over, we got to go back and talk about what we did for our summer vacation. I had a really cool picture to show. From there, I ended up in Newport, Rhode Island, which is the Navy Chaplain School. That's Newport right there. That's where we all started. That's where we got our initial training. My first active duty assignment, I was told I was going to an aircraft carrier out of San Diego. And I was really excited because if you're in the Navy, that's the kind of thing you really want to do. And that's what the detail of the person who makes the assignments told me I was going to be doing. Anyhow, they send you your orders via email, and I opened up my orders, and I was assigned to the 3rd Battalion, 12th Marines, a Marine Artillery Battalion in Okinawa, Japan. Totally what I didn't want. I went over there, and I had the time of my life. I worked with the Marines. Any Marines here, former Marines? You guys are a special breed. Love serving with them. I was with an artillery battalion, and we got to travel all over the Far East. We went to mainland Japan, we went to Korea, and we went to Thailand. It was an excellent year. 3rd Battalion, 12th Marines, that's our headquarters office on Okinawa, Japan. One of the trips that we had was to Mount Fuji in Japan for, they called them the relocation shoots, where we would take the howitzers and shoot them. Mount Fuji is a pretty sacred place in Japan. And because everyone has to have a familiarity with the weapon system, I had to pull the lanyard once. So that's me actually firing a howitzer. Pretty cool day. Pretty loud, too. Just some motivational pictures from Mount Fuji and the gun crew. We say mass wherever we're needed. This is the back of my Humvee, and you can see right here is the stole. Everything's camouflage, so even our vestments are camouflage as well. And for Marines, you know, if it's hot, you're going out. If it's snowing, you're going out. And if it ain't raining, we ain't training. So. It's a picture of me with some of the Marine Corps officers. We also had fun, too. So we went to Tokyo one weekend and did some sightseeing. While I was there, I got to visit the Jesuit University in Tokyo and actually ran into classmates of mine from England. So, small world there, too. That's me and my bodyguard. Chaplains are non-combatants, meaning we do not carry any type of weapon. So anytime we go out, we have to have somebody who is our bodyguard. They're called religious program specialists in the Navy, and they also serve with the Marines. Told you we ought to go to Thailand as well for our annual exercises. That's one of the gun crews. Sit around waiting for transportation. We also do community relations projects. It's like volunteer work. And we went to this children's home in Thailand for mentally and physically challenged young people. We were the first Americans they'd ever seen, and we had a blast. Played a lot of games. A bunch of Marines went and just made these kids really feel good. My next assignment after Okinawa was to the USS Iwo Jima. It's an amphibious assault ship. And the whole purpose of this ship is to get a group of Marines anywhere that they're needed in the world. This was my second ship experience, San Jacinto, then Iwo Jima. I met the ship coming home from Okinawa. I met it in Liberia, actually. At that time, it was during the Liberian Civil War. So I met the ship there, and it was its maiden voyage. That's the Iwo Jima, and one of the supply ships, or one of the other troop transport ships that was with us. This is a refueling at sea. And we would do that every couple of weeks, and that's what the food storage is like. The ship pulls up alongside it, they transfer all the food over, and then we start putting it away. One of the best things of being on the ship was evening prayer. Every evening, I couldn't get people to come to Mass all the time because of their work schedules, but every evening the ship goes silent so the chaplain can do the evening prayer. It's called, with Iwo Jima, the Holy Hilo. Anytime the chaplain is flying around to the other ships in order to be dropped off to say Mass, it's designated as the Holy Hilo. There's an osprey landing on the flight deck. The Iwo Jima also has alcacs that come out the back. That's this boat here. And again, the whole purpose is to transport Marines anywhere they're needed. On the way home, we got to stop en route to Spain. So again, it's fun times too. This is my dad and my older brother. On the way home, we had what was called a Tiger Cruise, where you can have family members come for a couple days and they ride the boat with you. And pulled into port. We did Fleet Week in New York City and concelebrated Mass at St. Patrick's Cathedral. On the ship, again, community relation projects. My next assignment was the Chief of Chaplain's office. I pushed paper, so we'll move on. My next assignment after that was the Marine Corps Command and Staff College, which is a year of studies with Marines, officers from other services, from other government agencies, and also from foreign countries. One of the best years of my life. We get to study strategy, history, and leadership. That's Marine Corps University. That's my conference group. The guy up here was an Army officer from the country of Georgia. He was late for everything, even the picture, so we had to put his picture up there. Went to Gettysburg. Some fun events. That all led up to me being assigned to the 2nd Marine Division. Pretty motivational picture, huh? That's the crest for the 2nd Marine Division. I was assigned to the 2nd Marine Division, and then from there I was assigned as the 2nd Marine Division Forward Chaplain, meaning that I got sent to the Helmand Province of Afghanistan. So it was region southwest. And a couple years ago, if you were following the news, that's where the last major fighting was taking place. And in this area was my area of responsibility. So as a priest, at different times during my year over there, I was either one of 4 priests or one of 2 priests. But we had to get around to that entire area, all of those small places, to make sure we got to the Marines who were getting ready to go into harm's way. And I can tell you this, the Marine Corps was absolutely wonderful making sure the chaplains got to their troops. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. While I was over there, I ran into another graduate of St. Louis University. You can probably tell we graduated in different years. But anyhow, she was a public affairs officer and she wrote a story about our service over there. This is where we live. These are called, they're called cans, but we call them condominiums. And what they are they're shipping containers that have been modified, to put a door and a window on the front, and that's what we lived in. And they stack them. And that's good living when you're deployed. Traveling over there, we either went by ground transportation with vehicles like this, or for air transportation. These are the type of vehicles that have replaced the Humvees. These are more mine resistant. They still get blown up, but the chances of surviving are a lot higher than they used to be. This is an MRAP. It stands for Mine Resistant Assault Protected Vehicle. It's like a Brinks truck on steroids. And you have the drivers up front, there's a gunner up on the top, and then we would get into the back, and we are strapped into the seats the whole time. And we travel in convoys. So if you'll see this MRAP here, it has this extension right there of wheels, and the whole purpose for that was to run over an IED first. They started planting the IEDs, they were blowing up the vehicles, and then they developed this system which would hopefully blow up the IED before it did one of the vehicles. But then the insurgents got better, and they started doing pressure plates, which were like a three-way light switch. So every third vehicle that would run across it would blow up because this wasn't working anymore. So every time we figured out a way to counter them, they figured out a way to counter us. And anyone who ever tells you they weren't afraid getting in an MRAP and traveling any distance is not telling you the truth. A lot of times we flew too, and I talked about the Holy Hilo when I was on the ship. It was similar with the Marine Corps as well. And that's my bodyguard there for Afghanistan, RP1, now Chief Petty Officer Michael Hawthorne. That's us waiting for our aircraft. Again, motivational picture. We're flying and looking out over the Helmand Province. In the beginning, it was difficult getting around because I had to fall in on the normal flights that were scheduled, and there was a flight schedule all the time. But it wasn't getting me to the places I needed to get to. Okay, we would get word that a particular group of Marines were going to go out on a dangerous mission, and I was tasked to get up to them to make sure they all had, the sacraments before they went out. But I couldn't always get a flight up there. So the 3 Marine generals over there, all Catholic boys, figured out a way to use the gunships that were always flying to get the priest from point A, B, C, and D. So the gunship would come in, flying low, and we would run and get on it. That's looking out the side of one of the helicopters. A lot of the forward the forward operating bases, those were the small contingents of Marines that were spread out, were in villages that had been abandoned. So a lot of these are all mud huts, and that's what we lived in when we were out in the field, or we were in tents. Again, off the side of the Holy Hilo. You see over here? I was in region Southwest. It was desert. I'm told other parts of Afghanistan were really leafy and trees. I never saw those parts. This was my experience of Afghanistan. If you see up here, that little speck is the gunships always went out in twos, so they protected one another. By the way, when I first went over there, we felt pretty safe in the helicopters. But you may remember that a helicopter was shot down with a bunch of Navy SEALs on it, and that changed everything because once again they figured out how to take the aircraft down. And sometimes we had mechanical difficulties and helicopters would crash. Thank you. Appreciate it. So sometimes the aircraft would crash, and then nobody wanted to fly again. And then we would get a message from the general with the chaplain's mind flying more, so the crew would have more confidence in the helicopters. It's like, sure. It's just flying around. Again, where I was in Afghanistan, it was a very fine silt. It was finer than sand, but stronger than dirt. And so every time these things landed, it just kicked up these brown tunnels. And it gets into every crevice, your eyes, underneath any of your uniform. When we would land, the Marines in a particular forward operating base would have to go out and secure the perimeter from local insurgents. So they would go out, away from the fob, guard the landing zone, and then we would land. And then when they give us the all clear, they would escort us to the fob. Well, that's me, the second one back there. I would say mass wherever they had room for it. Here's a chow hall. You can still see the ketchup on the table. And if you notice, if I'm inside, I'm wearing a white L. If I'm outside, I'm just wearing a camouflage stole. The reason for that was intelligence had told us that the insurgents were in the process of trying to figure out who the docs and corpsmen were, as well as the chaplains, figuring if they shot us, then it would hurt their morale more. So I did not wear the white outside. Didn't want to give any more of a target. That's us walking to one of the fobs. And the whole time we're walking, somebody was going in front of us with the mine detector. That's the dust I was talking about. They called it moon dust. When you just walked into it, it puffed up like that. That's me in RV-1 waiting for our aircraft. One of the things I like to do when I would visit the FOBs is visit the pack animals. I'm a real animal lover, so anytime I got a chance to hang out with the bomb-sniffing dogs or the pack mules, that was like a little bit of home for me. Again, me and RP1 celebrating Mass in the Chow Hall. One of the bomb-sniffing dogs. I love those dogs. This was a group of Marines who were getting their packs on to escort us back to the landing zone so that we can get the flight back. And that's the mine detector. And that's the group of Marines who are going out. They're going to spread out and they're going to secure the landing zone so that the helicopter can come in and land. They would pop smoke, and then that was the target for the helicopters to come in and land. By the way, I've never been so hot in my life as I was over there, because we're wearing the flak jackets, and it would be up over 100 degrees. It's me turning my back because the dust storm was coming my way. Celebrating Mass outside on the picnic table. And God bless the Marines. They would come in from doing some type of maneuvers or search or ground intervention, and they would get back there and they wanted to go to Mass. Even if they weren't Catholic, they wanted to go to Mass. In one of the tents, by the way, you may remember that the translations changed. We had to do that while we were in a war zone, so I had the little cheat sheet cards everywhere I went to. Really neat story. I'm one of 7 children. I have 5 brothers and 1 sister. God bless you, Mom and Dad. 4 of us were on active duty at one time, 2 in the Army, 1 in the Air Force, and I was in the Navy. By the way, Navy chaplains served with Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard. That's my brother Pat on my left. He was an Osprey pilot in the Air Force. He was in Air Force Special Ops. And he was assigned to Afghanistan the same time I was. And I actually saw my brother more in Afghanistan than I've seen him since I've been home. But he would fly through my area. They did night missions. And I would meet him in the landing zone around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And they would go and do their mission. He would drop off the special forces, and they'd come back and wait. And then we would sit there and catch up for about a half hour or 45 minutes. Some of the best times I had in Afghanistan were hanging out with my brother. But it was also tough because the times I couldn't catch up with him, I would try to fall asleep before he flew in, because the Osprey has a very distinct sound to it. And I would always count 4 coming in, and I knew he was one of them. But if I didn't fall asleep before that happened, I waited until they flew back so I could count 4 more. And my brother is one of my heroes, and the work he did over there saved a lot of lives. So I love that picture. I have that framed in my house as well. Cool story here too. I would go to this one area. It was called FOB Edinburgh, Forward Operating Base Edinburgh, and there was a shock trauma platoon there, meaning it was a bunch of medical personnel, doctors and nurses, surgeons, and they were up into the front lines, so they were the first medical care that were given to the Marines that had been severely injured. And these were the Catholics in that group, and they came to Mass all the time. This one right here was a nurse who was, we called her a tire kicker. She was thinking about becoming a Catholic. And the others there started their own RCIA program for her. And they brought her along, and she became a Catholic, and I did her wedding last spring in Indianapolis. Sadly, this was one of the toughest experiences when a Marine was killed over there. And backing up, before we deployed from Camp Lejeune, I remember going, for the physical training with this group. I remember thinking, I wonder how many of these guys are coming back. And there were a lot of them who did not come back. I would go out into the FOBs and I would say Mass for these guys. I remember one Easter Sunday saying Mass for a group of them. And then on Wednesday, I was saying the prayers of the dead over them because they'd stepped on an IED or they were shot by a sniper. The one takeaway I have from this, and this is something I've always known, but now I really know it, is life's really short. Each one of us has an obligation to live it to the fullest each day, because nobody knows how many tomorrows we have. This was a picture that was taken on a particularly rough day over there. I was out making my rounds on the Holy Hilo, and I stopped in that one FOB Edinburgh, where the medical folks were. And I was getting ready to leave, and then casualties came in. And I helped carry the stretchers in. And it was 2 8-year-old Afghan kids who had found some type of grenade or explosive. And they threw it in the fire, and it blew up and damaged them. And I remember sitting there thinking, after I helped carry them in, and I was waiting for my ride out of there, thinking, what kind of world do we live in where little kids find grenades to play with? And by the way, these kids were not crying. They were scared, but they don't cry. They're so used to a war-torn country. But I still think about that day a lot, especially when I'm around my own nieces and nephews. This is on our way back home after a year in Afghanistan. And I'll admit it, I was happy to have my first beer after 12 months. But those were some of the Marines from the 2nd Marine Division. Okay. That was arguably the most intense year of my life being in Afghanistan. There were days where I could not find the reason or the rationale for a lot of what was going on over there. There were days I would just ask the question, why? Why is this happening? Why did that young man just die? Why is that one going home without his legs? And after a year of watching young people die, it really took a toll on me. I'll be the first to admit it. That's a story for another day, though. But when I came home from that, I was assigned to the Coast Guard Training Center, which is the Coast Guard boot camp in Cape May, New Jersey. And that was exactly what I needed after an intense year of wartime to now I was with young people who were dedicating their lives to saving lives. By the way, I have the utmost respect for every Marine, sailor, soldier, airman, and Coast Guardsman who went to war. I'm proud to have done my share in that. But I was glad to come home and leave that behind me, too. It will always be a part of me, but not like it was then. Before I go on with this, just some stories that are coming to mind now. I remember also flying on aircraft or being in the convoys in Afghanistan, and one of the insurgents would be brought aboard and be sitting right across from me. They were handcuffed and they were being taken for questioning. But I remember feeling incredible anger when I would see some of these people. I believe you're innocent until proven guilty, but I knew some of these guys were the people who were responsible for planting the IEDs that were maiming and killing the Marines that I was there to serve. And it was amazing because I like to think I'm a pretty calm person, pretty laid back, but I remember feeling anger like I've never felt before in my life. So I came home for Cape May, wearing the Coast Guard uniform now. I was in charge of a chapel. It's the Coast Guard boot camp, and I got to work with some of the finest young people our nation has, again, with the Marines and now with the Coast Guard. Here they are coming in with their company commanders, the drill instructors. A tough day for them. But one of the great things about, see, they're all suffering, okay? One of the great things about being there is the two chaplains were like Santa Claus. We were like two people who never hollered at them. So the recruits find religion really quickly, too. But what's really, really neat was they're there 8 weeks, and what happens for anybody who joins the military in the short time in boot camp is amazing. They come in scared, and they leave proud and really, really dedicated, ready to serve. So they go from those scared kids in the beginning to these motivated guys at the end. And it happens in 8 short weeks. By the way, my oldest brother was in the Coast Guard, and when I was assigned here, I called him up and asked him if he wanted to come and visit. And he said, absolutely not. I never want to see that place again in my life. But then you figure, these 18, 19-year-old kids, we train them and then we're sending them out to do incredible things. So I finished up in Cape May on Friday, this past Friday, and I'm home for 2 weeks of leave. And now I'm headed down to the USS George H.W. Bush in Norfolk, Virginia. So I'll be going to sea with 6,000 of my closest friends. And I'm going to end with this picture. It's a picture of Peter walking on the water, going to Christ. As you know, the story goes, he loses faith and falls into the water, but Jesus pulls him back up. And it's kind of how I felt in my service with the Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard. There were a lot of days that I had a lot of zeal, but my faith wasn't always strong enough. God provided and took care of me and got me where I needed to be and to do what I needed to do. And that's all I have. I'll give you the microphone, I promise. Okay. Everything I am, everything I do, I totally dropped back to my mom and dad. So what they taught me is what I try to do.
Wow. Better than Bober indeed. Thank you, Father.
Pleasure.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I speak for all of us. I'd like to remind everybody that we're going to be taking quite a break before our next Catholic Alive program. But our next Catholic Alive program won't be until early February, and Dr. Michael Terrian will be with us speaking on the gospel and medical practice. Isn't there a Catholic approach to medicine? Fascinating topic. As always, we invite you to enjoy refreshments. We have wonderful things prepared back there. You can eat and talk, or just eat, or just talk. Whatever you prefer, but please stay with us for a while and chat. And please mark your calendars and be back with us in early February. We'll call on our musicians again to help us to close the evening. Sing with us. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Safe home and God bless.
Can we please stand and sing America?
Thank you.